Welcome to the ANA podcast. I am Michael, joined here with my co-host Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hi, Michael. How are you doing today?
Very, very good. So today is the first episode of our podcast, the ANA podcast, as we like to call it between each other. It's easier than to just calling it again and again podcast. And So, do you want to talk about how we decided to start this podcast and why?
Sure. That's a very good topic. So, the reason why we started this podcast, we're pretty big tech fans. Am I right, Michael?
I agree, totally.
I mean, we follow technology a lot, and we watch a lot of YouTube videos, read a lot of articles on the internet, and we just follow up on some tech. We listen to podcasts ourselves also. And
that's right.
And then one day we just decided, we're like, why don't we start our own? What is there into? It's not much. I mean, we had mics and we had the equipment, so we're like, why not just start our own? And here we are, starting off with episode number 1 of the Again and Again podcast.
Woo, yeah, buddy. All right. So the thing is in all our podcasts that we listen to, notably, let's give a shout out to the ATP podcast, the MPU podcast, and the Space Javelin podcast.
Yes.
They all have certain perspectives. So we actually discussed about this yesterday, where we said that the ATP podcast tends to have like this kind of like older adult / programmer feel to it, which is very interesting because we don't necessarily 100% relate to them since we are not programmers nor adults, older adults. And so it's a different perspective that we don't usually see. And then there's the Space Javelin, which are 2 older adults as well, but they're journalists. So they have this kind of analyst and journalistic approach. And then there's the MPU, where it's 2 like professionals that are basically describing every life hack that they use and in their like daily Apple lives and within their jobs. And so we found that there's a hole in the market for content for like younger people and just regular consumers, where most of those big YouTube podcasts, Freudian slip, those podcasts tend to cover things in a certain optic, and we wanted to cover an optic where they don't really discuss about, and which is mainly being an Apple user as a student and with more a constrained budget, we could say.
Yes, and someone who doesn't have as much money to always buy the new product as soon as it comes out.
Of course, and we don't get review units either, so.
No. We're just regular people.
See, the
just
thing
like
is, the thing is, you're currently, we're both of us in university right now. You started this year, I started 2 years ago, and so both of us I'm in the financial field, studying to be in the financial field. You're studying eventually to become a programmer, right?
Yes, computer engineering.
Computer engineering. So both these fields will lead towards a certain direction where we'll probably in a few years, if this podcast remains, to be like the ATP and the Space Javelins and the MPUs of this world. But for now, we are more of a student kind of thing. And so these bigger podcasts, they tend to be able to deduce from their taxes expenses on electronics because they use them for work, right?
Yes, yeah.
We don't have that luxury. We don't have that luxury to use them as tax deductions.
No, we don't.
And so, for us justifying the cost and the maintenance and everything related to all the app products that Tim Cook has generously provided for us is harder.
Yes, it is. It is a lot harder because, like you said, we have budget constraints and we don't have tax. We don't get the tax deducted due to the fact that we are technically either just buying them for our enjoyment, or we're just buying them for school, which the government. We do get student prices, but those are not as good as getting your tax deducted, especially in Quebec.
Exactly. And now that the podcast is introducted, is that a word?
I have no idea.
Anyways, whatever.
We'll just leave it at that. We'll just leave it at
in the Michael Dictionary now it is word. You heard it here first, people. Introducted. Daniel has been introducted. Anyways, let's start with our topics. We prepared a few topics. Daniel, I see on your topics that you mentioned first topic, the folding phone. It has been covered extensively in the past about month, if you could say, with the
Yes.
Samsung, the Huawei's, the what's it called, the other one, the Pi something,
The Royale Flex Pi.
the Royal Flex Pi. That's a mouthful.
Yeah,
And
it
so,
is. It is.
So, what do you want to tell us about this?
Well, about folding phones, I mean, like, I don't see a future in folding phones. I know that there's a lot of these. This is contrary to like a lot of like big YouTubers, how they're like, this is cool, this is new, this is innovative. This is like, they're saying like all these things and like all these haters. It's because you don't love technology and you don't this or you don't that. I mean, I do love technology and I want to see improvements, but I don't think folding phones is the future because there's a few things I have against folding phones. I mean, first of all, there's the two types of folding phones. We're not gonna really look at the Royale Flex Pi because that was a bit more of like a concept.
Yeah.
It's more the Huawei Mate X and the Samsung Galaxy Fold. Now, the Samsung Galaxy Fold and the Mate X are two completely different types of folding. You have the Mate X that folds from the outside, like in that the screen is covering the outside of the phone. Then you have the Samsung version, which is that the screen folds on the inside like a book. Which there's an extra screen on the back and you open it up like a book and you have your screen on the inside, whereas the Mate X is the opposite and you're opening it up to the fact that you have the screen on the outside. Now, honestly, to which one I would prefer, it depends what you're looking at because durability-wise, the Mate X is obviously going to be garbage because the thing has a plastic screen. And
Both
what do
of
you
them do
like?
actually. Both of them
they
do
do.
have plastic screens.
But
Yeah.
the thing is with the Samsung is that it's on the inside. Like at least there's a little bit more protection. With the Mate X, it's on the outside. You put it in your pocket, you put it on a table, you put anything. The screen is always is always in contact with the outside world, which you put on the table, you put in your pocket. Sometimes you have a key in your pocket, you have some lint or whatever. Sometimes like it will scratch the screen. And my screen, I have a 6S, and that screen gets scratched up. I don't have a screen protector, and that screen gets scratched up in my pocket, and that's glass. Imagine plastic. So
No,
for
exactly. I remember when we had the flip phones. You know, I had a flip phone once upon a time, and
Yeah.
it was a Samsung flip phone. It had a plastic screen like all other flip phones, or most of them did at least. I think the Motorola Razrs, they had some variants of them had glass screens, but regardless, yeah, no, because it made the device thinner, and so I remember like just the sheer amount of because cars have bearings in their tires.
Yes.
When those bearings rub, something happens where basically those bearings wear out slowly. They create metal dust. This metal dust is so fine that it just carries through the air. You walk outside, they fall in your clothes, in your pocket, everywhere. They accumulate over the years.
yes,
You
exactly.
put that device in your pocket and it rubs, and it rubs, and it just takes the right metal particle, that one dust piece that is just hard enough to scratch your screen, and you will find all kinds of scratches.
Yeah, that's what happens to my phone. My phone, it's full of scratches. The screen, micro scratches, but they're there.
Yeah. And I don't see how you could put a screen protector on a folding screen. You know, like we already have glass. We have glass screens
Yeah.
on our phones right now, and
And they have tempered glass screen protectors.
yeah, exactly, tempered glass screen protectors. How are you going to put a screen protector on a device
That folds.
that is supposed to bend?
Yeah,
now,
how you
Corning is working on the technology, but that's like years away. You know, they're
like
not going to
it's-
release that tomorrow.
No, exactly. And the thing is that the phones are coming out like tomorrow. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
like,
Now,
it's-
that's not confirmed. It's not confirmed, but AT&T announced that supposedly the Fold is going to be released on the end of June. Samsung has denied that. I heard this on the weekly news from Space Javelin, and they denied this allegation. But I don't think Corning will be able to make it in a week or so.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting because like I mean, looking at it from the Mate X's perspective, honestly, if you're telling me just screen wise, I would take the Mate X any day. Why?
Yeah.
Because the thing is that when the phone is closed, when the phone is folded, you have a big screen on the front. The
Yes.
problem with the Samsung, with the Galaxy Fold, is the fact that when it's closed, you get a 4.6-inch screen that's taller, like a lot taller than it is wide. It's like it. That screen is. I even heard from YouTubers, like big YouTubers like Unbox Therapy and like MKBHD and like guys like that, like big influential guys. They said that like yeah, I don't use the front screen. They're like right away it makes you want to open it up. They're like I just use the front screen for either phone calls or like just a quick
Mm.
check of an email that you got or a text or whatever. If you do anything like watching any content or going on any social media or whatever, any of that stuff that you do on the phone, they say like you open up the phone. So then
Yeah.
at that point, what's the point at that in that case, what's the point of having the screen on the front if you're never going to use it?
No,
Then
it's
at
a
that in
valid
that
point.
case is what is the point of having a folding phone if you're never going to use the front screen, which is the reason why it folds? At that point, just carry around a tablet.
No, the problem is deeper than that. See, because Samsung has the display manufacturing for themselves. They can make any size screen they want, any quality screen they want because they own their own manufacturing.
Yes.
And so they're not dependent on like another company like Japan Displays or LG to fabricate, or Sony even. I think Sony has a fab for screens. So they're able to make any screen they want for the front size, and they decided to make one with like literally an inch or half an inch of bezel on top and bottom on the small screen.
Yeah.
And that's basically like having, the palm phone that came out last year.
Yes.
That's basically iPad Mini with a palm phone glued on the back. And
Yeah,
so
that's basically what it is.
it exactly what it is, with nice cameras, of course. But that's not the problem. The problem is that this little phone thing on the backside of the Samsung is meant just for you to do quick access, and of course, it may be useful for the design constraints that they have, but the Samsung doesn't take in consideration that the biggest pet peeve for people with their phones is first of all scratches, and
Yes.
secondly fingerprints. Now, when you're holding it in the folded mode, your palms, your sweaty, greasy palms, will be touching the
Yes.
folded part. Basically, you'll have like solidified, crust, sweaty finger stuff on the display. So
Yeah, on the
what
front
you're-
display.
what Samsung is telling you is, thou shalt not touch the display, lest fingerprints smear the display, and you will have to carry around with you a handkerchief to wipe it at all times.
Every
Not
time
just
you
a
use
handkerchief,
it.
not just a handkerchief, or like a microfiber towel, whatever you want, like a glass towel, a glass cleaning towel, but also the liquid. Why? Because by the time that you turn your phone around and decide to clean it, that grease and finger dirt and everything is solidified on the screen. It's
Yeah,
I
it's
don't know.
true.
It's like people that use their phone naked and without any case know that best. Like on your back of your phone, if you don't put it in your pocket and just like use it regularly, and you have like, oily fingers. Some people have oily fingers. Every person is different, but people more than others. And then if you combine that oil, that finger oil, with like pocket lint and dust and dirt, it will create like a solid layer.
It
Like,
will, yeah.
You'll
it
have to
does.
scratch it off.
Yeah.
And so either you get a screen that's on the of like the Huawei, a screen on the outside, like that covers the whole thing,
Yeah.
and that
When it's open,
when
you're
it's
touching
open,
like the back of the phone.
yeah. Well, Huawei is the same problem, but the difference is that
When you're using the small
you'll
screen.
you'll use it more often, I guess, in the full mode. So you'll probably be cleaning it more often
Yeah.
than the Samsung one. Samsung one also. Let's say you're in clamshell mode, like when it's folded. The
Yeah.
advantage of it, I'm going to give this to Samsung because Huawei, if you drop the phone from the outside, your
Oh
screen's
yeah, your
done.
screen's finished.
You're
Yeah,
not-
yeah.
no,
Yeah,
no,
you
it's
could
finished.
basically like
Like-
throw the phone out.
Yeah, yeah. So Huawei, I don't know. They haven't released anything. They haven't announced anything. They just told us we have a
Yes,
folding
and showed
phone
us pictures.
pictures and like some promotional video. I think I don't remember. And so, what happens when you drop these phones? Like you have a plastic screen, like less than a millimeter thick. That the screens are
Yeah,
OLED screens
yeah.
are super fragile.
It's gonna
Like
break the
It's a
screen.
terrible. It's terrible.
It's just it's a port. Like, look, I mean, I know folding phones are nice and whatever, but like, I mean, we're not there yet. I mean, just
Yeah.
for now, just buy a tablet. And wait, not to mention the fact that they're 2,000 plus US dollars.
Exactly.
The
No,
Mate
that's
X
that's
is
the
like
bite that.
like oh man. Like I know it's new technology and I know it's like it's innovation and this and that, but like
No.
like,
Hold on. See, this is what all you. I'll let you continue after, but let me interject here. All YouTubers like to say it's innovation. Let me tell you right here, the wheel was an innovation. The printing press was an innovation. The lathe was an innovation.
the iPhone was an
Cr-
innovation.
The iPhone was an innovation. Creating something new does not make it an innovation.
No.
Lot of and also basically with the iPhone sorry, not the iPhone, with the Galaxy Fold and the Huawei Mate X R is basically an invention, a beta version, a prototype.
Yes.
They're not an
exactly.
innovation.
Yes. That's actually a
Innovation
very
is
good
when
point.
they improve life. Innovation is when it improves life, like the microwave, the washing machine, what it did to women. Women didn't have to go on their scraping boards, whatever they call them, washing boards.
Yeah,
and
washing
scrape
boards.
for 5 hours.
No,
You just put it in
exactly.
the washing machine, put the liquid, and let it do itself.
Dishwashers.
That's an innovation. That's an innovation.
Cars. You don't have to go in your horse and whatever, your horse and buggy. You go in your car and you move a lot faster.
Exactly.
Things like that.
So, in some ways, the Mate X and the Fold are like a step backwards, especially with the fiasco of the Note 7. Samsung doesn't have a very good reputation trying prototyped designs and ideas
No.
and releases into the masses. It doesn't always end up good. So
Well-
I don't think they're learning from their mistakes from the past. Now, this is not a popular idea. People like the novelty of it, the novelty of a folding phone, because
Yeah.
the phone market has been very stale.
Yeah, exactly.
lately.
Like they say, it's just glass slabs that everyone's releasing.
Yeah, with notches and what's it called? With the protruding
Fingerprint.
holes for the camera.
Yeah. But I mean, like, in a way, what do you want them to do? I know they're big tech companies, but like, I mean, to go to that extent and create something that's almost worse, like, I don't think that's the way to go. I don't think folding phones are the future. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is. Maybe we'll come back and listen to this and be like, man, folding phones are the future. But for at least for now, 2019, 2020 even, I don't think folding phones are ready yet.
Exactly. What bothers me even more is the same people that said that the AirPod is a flop and a poor design and ugly and useless and will not sell well
Use
are the
them.
same people praising the what's it called, the Fold. They're the
Yeah.
same people saying the Fold is
Yes.
magnificent. So
Yes.
if you're not able to see the future or predict the future and analyze the goings on of the world and how people are using their devices right now, and say that the AirPod is a poor product, and then literally 2 months later when it's announced and released or whatever when that was, where it was, I think they released it in when did they release the AirPods?
Something in November, December, and they announced it at
It's been 3 years, right? It's been 3 years.
Yeah, I think it's 3 years. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
the iPhone 7 that they released it with.
Okay, so but I know it took a while for it to ship because they had production delays or whatever. And even when
Yeah.
it shipped, the stores were all run out of AirPods, and so 3 years later, Apple is selling still the same product, and it's still a top selling wireless headphone.
And it's
All
still
those people, exactly.
better than the competition that just came out. I would take AirPods over Galaxy Buds, and the Galaxy Buds just came out, and the AirPods are 3 years old.
Exactly. Now, competition is catching up, of course, but it's been still. It has
3
been
years.
3 years with almost unchanged design. I don't count the release from last month of the new AirPods as a new AirPods. They like to
No.
call them the AirPods 2. Apple never calls them the AirPods 2. They just call them AirPods.
Yeah.
It's more like the original AirPods, 0.1 or 0.2, like a 0.2
Yeah, like
version.
a spec bump.
You
They
know?
just the design
Yeah,
is
exactly.
exactly the same. The only thing they did is added wireless charging to the case, which you can get for your old AirPods, and they just upgraded the from W2 to H1, so it's like a
They
spec
also
bump.
made the hinge better. They made the
Yes.
hinge better.
Yes.
And I have a pet peeve. I have the shiny part of the hinge. Both of us have AirPods.
Yes.
So we have the shiny part on the hinge. When you put the pocket lid problem. Well, that happens also to the hinge. The hinge is all scratched up.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't really care
it's
too
not
much
very
because
apparent.
my AirPods
Yeah,
got run over
exactly.
by a car, but we'll leave
Yeah,
that for
it's
another
true.
day.
That's a good story. Yeah, we'll leave that for another day. Um, yeah, but just the fact that it's a matte black, well, not matte black,
Yes,
matte
that it's
brushed metal.
matte.
You know,
Yeah,
matte brushed metal. That will help a lot with the aging of the AirPods.
it will.
So that's better. Besides that, I think our thoughts for the Galaxy
A mate.
and the Mate and all the folding phones in general, because I don't there's a major flaw in the overall design of it. So we'll come back to that subject later.
We will. We
When we
will.
have more information, when the Mate X is probably released, or when new developments in this field arises. Like example, if Samsung cancels the product,
Yeah, which they could.
that would be a good
I
time.
mean, like, it's like you were saying. It's like you were saying before, like how Samsung has problems like with the Note 7 and whatever. How they release things into the masses and they're broken. They released it to reviewers, and they were breaking.
Reviewers
Reviewers.
and journalists,
And
they're supposed to promote
like-
that product.
Like,
They're supposed to get people excited about
yeah, and they're breaking on you. Like, come on. Like, I mean, that means it's not ready. That means like you have to wait. It's just because they knew Huawei was coming out with a folding phone, and they had to be the first one to announce it. That's what it is. I mean,
it.
like,
Great point. Yeah.
it's just to beat Huawei to the punch. It's the phone is not ready. This thing is the screen is breaking. Like there's stuff getting inside of the hinge. Like that you do 200,000 folds or whatever they did in a factory in a lab with a machine. That's not putting it in your pocket. That's not getting pocket
Mhm.
lit. That's just open close in a sealed environment with no dirt and no
Yeah.
human use and no bending, because it could be that like you could like not purposely but just bend the phone a little bit as you're opening it, or like there's the human error. I mean, a machine doesn't do that. So I mean, you can't go by, oh, the phone's perfect because we did 200,000 folds in a controlled environment with machines. Like
Yes,
that's
exactly.
not how it
Like,
works.
the fold is not the folding. The machines are not folding it with an angle or slightly more force, or
Exactly.
it's basically a controlled close.
Yes.
Which basically repeat. I don't know if you've been to IKEA before. They have like this simulation where they have those like this kind of like rocking chair thing, and it's basically the chair doesn't have legs. It has
Oh, yes.
like
Yes,
like
I've seen
skis,
that.
like
Yes,
a
I've
ski,
seen that
like
thing.
a
I've
ski,
seen that thing.
and they have this machine like a mechanical pneumatic arm thing, where it basically pushes on the chair, simulating the weight of a person sitting on it, because like the design of the chair is basically there's no four legs. It's
No.
basically a ski folded into a S,
Yeah.
a kind of a S shape,
Yeah.
and basically the chair sits on the top part of the S shape, and so this machine only simulates the same amount of force over and over. So basically, the strain in the in the wood structure and the wood fibers arises in the first few thousand times, and then it's just like repetitive stress that doesn't basically do anything to the structure of wood.
Yeah.
It doesn't simulate the true
No.
beating that chairs get in
No,
real life, where
no.
people from different sizes, different weights,
Yes.
different
Exactly.
different back postures, different weight distributions. It doesn't simulate that at all.
No.
It's not a scientific way to prove that your product is reliable.
No.
And I think we've been talking long enough about this subject. If you want to give some closing thoughts about it.
My closing thoughts are just that they're not ready yet. I mean, maybe it is the
Yeah.
future, but for now, for 2019, folding phones, even 2020, I'm gonna say it. 2020, not ready.
Exactly. So we'll get back to the subject. I'm sure of it. I'm sure that we're gonna come back around, do full circle, and talk about it again. But
Yeah.
now let's go to our next topic. You want to introduce that one?
5G.
5G. 5G. Yeah. So that's a topic under my one of my topics.
Yes.
5G basically came up, blew up in popularity since basically the Samsung release.
Yes.
It was there before, but it blew up
With
in
the
popularity.
5GE
like-
with AT&T or something like that, one of those carriers.
Yeah, 5G. Well, that's a gimmick. That's just
Yeah,
improved
that's
LTE.
just. But apparently they
And-
say not even. Apparently they say it's worse.
Exactly. So the 5G LTE from AT&T is worse than some other provider in the US.
Yeah.
Than the 4G, like the 4G
Yeah,
LTE.
that's just a gimmick. I mean,
Uh,
that's just a name.
It's To borrow my friend AVE's name, it's marketing wank. That's what he says, and I agree totally. This is
Yeah.
marketing wank. It's just to get people excited about a product that doesn't even exist yet.
Exactly.
But we hear more and more about all these like media companies and governments trying to promote 5G because they say it's the future. And of course, there's applications like especially in the biomedical field where you need like latency free or very little latency in hospitals. Let's say you need wireless internet in a building, throughout the building,
Yes.
and for like imagine like long distance surgery or stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know what they use it for,
Yeah.
but they have some medical applications I heard. Also for what's it called? AI driving, like the Teslas. They have
Yes.
the driver modes that the car drives for you, and if cars could communicate fast enough between each other, using the gigabit speeds of
5G.
5G, well, that would be able to help out on the road, so the cars could communicate with each other and know what to expect. If a car 50, 70, 80 feet ahead accidentally or like intensively stops, it could tell all the cars behind that it's doing so. But bringing this to the phone market is kind of dumb, especially right now, knowing the history of LTE. Now, maybe you were too young to remember LTE
I was.
in its first age, but when the LTE first came out, I think it was HTC. Rest in peace, HTC.
Yeah.
They basically brought it on their phone, and when they brought it, it was very laggy. Not laggy. It wasn't polished, and a major flaw with it is there were very little people supporting it, either on the manufacturer chip side, where the chips inside for the modem were not optimized for regular cellular and LTE, so it was kind of like jack of all trade, master at none.
Yeah.
It was good for both, but not really good.
Yeah.
And even the infrastructures in most countries didn't even support 4G LTE till maybe 3 or 4 years later.
Oh wow.
And even till today, like I go to places, and like in the US, you could still go places that have 2G. Where places the US coverage is really bad.
Really?
And here in Canada too. Canada is not like once you leave the big cities, coverage is not so great. You get 3G maybe if you're lucky.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like once we go like up north to Mont Tremblant or something like that. For those who don't know what Mont Tremblant is, it's a ski village, maybe 3 hours north from Montreal. Very popular for skiers and like basically anyone who enjoys winter sports or other activities.
Yeah.
And so once you get around that area, 4G is maybe non-existent.
Yeah, you're right.
Or
Yeah.
the speeds are very low,
Yeah.
and so they're trying to promote 5G. Like Samsung came out with a 5G
Yeah. They're the
S10,
S10 5G.
and the S10 has the same problem as the first HTC that supported 4G.
There's no infrastructure for it.
There's no infrastructure for the 5G. Only maybe like I think Singapore has one city, Chicago has one street that you could have 5G on it. So basically, if you live on that street, you'll get 5G. And the problem is not only that the 5G is bad, it drains your battery crazy. It
Really.
heats up your phone. It heats up the phone really bad. The places where the antennas are placed on the phone become warm to the touch. I don't like that feeling because heat is battery degradation.
Yeah, exactly. It is.
So it will reduce the longevity of the phone, and also regular phone calls and like regular cellular activities like 4G, 3G, and others are impeded because of that. So I don't know if you have thoughts about this, but I don't think it's a good idea. Like it's not a mature product. I believe Apple is doing the right approach where they're waiting.
Yes.
Just wait till the product matures. People like to say Apple just copies everyone when they release a product. No, Apple waits till the technology is mature enough to implement it flawlessly.
Exactly. Apple does the wise. Even with folding phones, like Apple's not just gonna be like, oh, let's just make a folding phone. They're gonna wait, and they're gonna if ever they make a folding phone, and if ever folding technology comes up to par with like standards or regular standards, because like apparently I heard, I think it was from another podcast. I'm not sure which one it was. It might have been ATP, but they said that Apple is working on folding glass. like Gorilla Glass
Yeah,
folds.
yeah, that's the one with Corning. Yeah, that was
Yeah.
ATP. That was
Yeah.
not last episode, the one before.
Yeah. So I mean, like, if you can get folding glass, then like go for it. But folding plastic, no, it's not ready. Like, so I know we're going back on folding phone, but like it's the same thing with 5G. It's not ready yet. There's no infrastructure for it. Like, okay, wow, your phone has 5G. Now the thing is that it has to choose between 4G or 5G, and there's no modems for 5G. Like, first wait for the cities, and the phone providers to put 5G like modems everywhere, so that like you can actually have, okay, look, you have 5G, but you can't use it because there are no modems anywhere for you to use it on. Like, I mean, see what I mean? Like, there's like you can't use it. Why? Because there's no infrastructure for it. So I think it's still a little bit premature for 5G. I think one day we will get to 5G, but
Yeah.
same thing as the folding phones. I don't think it's 2019.
You know, I would feel more at peace when, because the problem with 5G also right now is most of the people producing the infrastructure, the part that we don't see, but the antennas outside, the server side stuff, most of the people producing them are corporations that have shady relations with the US and Canada and in England, where like Huawei actually. Huawei makes a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, I know they do.
And Huawei, yeah.
Huawei.
Huawei.
Wait.
Sorry, I need to cough. Sorry.
Don't worry
So
about it.
Huawei, they produce a lot of the infrastructure. They have like a lot of intellectual property regarding all of those technologies that are related to 5G and like server side stuff. And basically, how can I say this? The U.S. and the people like to say that's the Trump administration that's trying to be aggressive with China. Not maybe, yeah, probably, but not really, because Huawei claims money or has a part of the money or funding coming from the Chinese government, the Chinese intelligence,
Yes.
and other government agencies. I read an article about that, and like they have a big amount now. I don't like having governments interfere within companies that manage data.
No, you do not want that. You do not want
And
that.
I give a big hand claps to the NSA dropping out of recording calls. They announced to the government that or some kind of branch of the government that the NSA will stop recording phone calls and text messages and stuff like that.
Oh, really?
Because it has no, yeah. Now I don't think they're doing it out of the goodness of their hearts, but it's still a good thing.
Yes.
You know, our phone calls aren't being stored on servers which Russians or anyone else could hack.
Yeah.
So that's a plus. Or text messages are not stored on some server where people could access because of mistake from an employee or a worker.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's a big plus for us. But to come back to the privacy aspect of 5G, we have to wait till like other competition develops, because now I think Huawei maybe has the most important portion of the intellectual property and infrastructure ready for deployment, but they're not trustworthy.
No,
And
they're not at all.
what
Chinese.
they're-
They're
look,
involved with the Chinese government. And what does the Chinese government want? They want information on Westerners. And what are they gonna do? You think if they build the infrastructure in the U.S. that they're not gonna use that information for themselves? Of course they are.
oh, of course.
It's the Chinese
Of course they are.
government you're dealing with, communist and all that stuff. Nothing against any Chinese or whatever, but the government is like, no, I don't want the government getting involved with what I'm doing on my phone, please.
Yeah, no, Chinese people are great people. We know a lot of Daniel and I have a lot of common friends that are Chinese. They fled China because of the communist regime oppressing them. So I like to maybe use this as a segue for your topic, which is privacy. Now
Yes.
you found an article which is very
I
interesting
did.
on the. I think it was the website was called the Visual Capitalist.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Where that article talks about privacies and big tech companies and what they know about you.
Yes. Yeah. It's.
Tell us about it.
Well, the article is called "Here's What the Big Tech Companies Know About You," and it's really shocking to see how much uh, Google and Facebook know about what data they collect. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like just things like they know your work. Facebook knows your relationship status. Well, I mean, I know it's because you posted, but still, they know your education. Facebook knows your political views, which no other tech company knows, only them. There's
Hmm.
just like a bunch of things that's like that Facebook. Like, why do you need to know these things? Like, and they're taking the data just so that they could give you more ads and more things like that. But I'm very.
It gets worse. It got worse actually. Not just ads, because they basically sell their information to. They got caught with Cambridge Analytica, which used to
Yeah.
manipulate elections and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, I don't want anyone interfering in my elections.
No.
And the problem is with. I like to borrow this quote from Mike Worthley. There's not a day that goes by, or in the week, that doesn't end with Y, and Facebook isn't caught with a scandal. So any day that ends with a Y, Facebook is caught in a scandal. I think they're getting sued by some federal commission for $3 or $4 billion lately. In the EU, they have, I think, piled up in fines $12 billion.
Oh wow.
Google has some fines. Amazon has been clear so far. They had leaks. They had I think passwords stored on their servers, unencrypted,
Oh.
like in plain text.
Oh.
Like someone could basically copy and paste them on a drive and basically sell all those passwords and data on you, like that.
That's not good.
Like really,
That's not good.
Facebook say the same thing. Facebook same thing.
Yeah.
And on this article that you mentioned, you shared with me. There's more than just Amazon and Facebook.
There is
and Google.
yeah. There's
also
Apple, Twitter, and Microsoft.
yeah. So this basically this article goes through every single thing that they know about you, starting by your name and gender. You want to go through them or?
Sure. So for your name, Google, Facebook, Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft. Gender, Google,
So
Facebook.
basically, Twitter doesn't know your gender,
No,
your name.
no. Twitter doesn't know your
real
name, your gender, or your birthday.
Okay, so like because the thing on Twitter is they don't require you to put your real name.
No, exactly.
You could put your real name. Most people do. Like people just put the regular name right there.
Yeah.
And then you just start tweeting and reading tweets. But they don't require you to put your
No.
real name. You could choose to.
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe skip to the really shocking ones, because there's a lot of ones that are like unimpressive, like gender.
Yeah,
birthday,
like that stuff is.
Phone number. Phone
Facebook-
number is more for security.
Facebook knows your income level.
Okay.
They're the only one that does, but they know your income level. That's pretty interesting. I mean, your race, Google and Facebook know your race, your ethnicity, your religious views. Facebook knows your religious views. Facebook, and this is actually pretty interesting. Facebook and Microsoft have your facial recognition data.
How does Facebook have? Oh, okay. I see what you mean. I see what they mean. You know when you share pictures on Facebook.
Yeah.
When you tag people on pictures, tagging.
Yes,
For those who don't
yes.
have Facebook here, meaning that you basically have a picture with like many people. You could put a pin on someone's face, and put in their name to that pin. And so I think Facebook processes that information in the background, creating a model or like machine learning model to recognize your face across platforms. And I know that they use it to fight fake accounts and stuff like that. But Facebook has been known to use the excuse of good features that are actually beneficial for protection and security and stuff like that, and selling them and manipulating them and exploiting
Yeah,
them for their own
yeah.
benefit. So yeah.
Yeah, so,
Keep
so
going.
that's pretty interesting that they have that. Political views, Facebook, and then there's stuff like credit cards. Government IDs is Amazon. Your IP address is all of them. Google, Facebook. I mean, it's your IP address. That's what you use.
Of course.
Emails, contacts. Actually, Apple and Amazon don't have your contacts. That's interesting.
Yeah, because they're stored locally,
Yeah.
or if they're on the cloud, they're encrypted.
Yes.
Which is interesting. Well, at least for Apple, I don't know Amazon if they encrypt everything.
I don't know, but
And I don't know why do we have access to your contacts?
Amazon?
Why does
Oh
Amazon
no, they
need your
don't. They
contacts?
don't.
Oh,
Apple and
they
Amazon
Let me
don't.
see.
It's Google, Facebook,
Okay, that's
Twitter,
true.
and Microsoft that has your contacts.
Microsoft. Okay, never mind.
Yeah. And then after
thought- I
your
thought
your
you said-
phone calls is actually Apple's the only one, but it says only with the metadata on the phone calls that were made.
Okay, yeah. So location,
Yes.
basically duration, and
Yeah.
all
So
that
they
stuff.
don't listen
Yeah.
to you. They just like know like the other data of your phone call.
And just to let the people know that are listening, these companies here are not the only companies knowing your data. They're just the main ones
Yes. Yes.
that know your data, or the biggest players, not the main ones. The biggest players, the more important companies on the market, which should excel the biggest volume. Now, ISPs and phone companies, they have access to that same level of
Oh
information.
yeah, for sure.
But they're not as important as these companies in size. I mean, the corporate
Yes,
size
obviously,
or stock
yeah.
market size. So that's why they're not mentioned in this article.
Yeah. Then other things like search history, videos watched, websites visited, browser information, all that stuff is like normal things for like Google. Like I mean, that's what you use Google for, search history. So, but Apple has Safari and they don't know your search history.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, that is actually very interesting.
Nor does Twitter.
Twitter, no, or Amazon.
know?
But I mean, why would Amazon know it?
For all, yeah.
Oh no,
for all
Amazon.
the,
Sorry,
the
Amazon
censorship-
does. Amazon does know your search history. It's only Apple and
Oh, of
Twitter
course they
that,
do.
that keeps it. That doesn't know your search.
But you know, for Twitter, for all its shortcomings and lackings in basically censorship or control of who's using their platform,
Very private.
they make up in privacy.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they make up
do.
in privacy.
Then websites visited. Anything else? Status update, likes, your documents, Google and Microsoft with the Google Drive.
You skip one that's interesting here. Photo uploads.
Yes.
Photo
that is
uploads.
actually very
Google,
interesting.
Facebook, Twitter, Amazon, and
Microsoft.
Microsoft have access. Now, that is interesting. Why? Because only of these two companies, basically, I'm not counting the Fire Phone Amazon. Only Google and Apple make phones,
Yes.
and Microsoft doesn't make phones anymore.
No.
Amazon still sells old phones and tablets and stuff like that. For or I think some Kindles have the ability of having photos on them or taking
They do.
screenshots.
You
I'm
can
not sure.
actually.
But correct me if
I
I'm
have
wrong.
a Kindle, and you actually could take pictures with the Kindle. It has a camera.
There you go. So, Apple does not have access to your photo uploads,
Which is
even
amazing.
though you store them on the cloud.
Yes,
Why?
because it's encrypted.
You know, this is impressive because Google, Facebook, and all these people, all these companies. I say people because we learned that companies are moral people. We are physical people. Companies are moral
Yes.
people. They behave as all the members in the company behave as one person providing a service,
Yes.
and so that's why I said people. And so they refine all their technology using your pictures.
Yeah.
And we like to bash on Apple. Oh, why don't you have better this, better that? Well, now we know because for privacy.
Yes. Yes.
And people like to say that Apple don't have much more to differentiate themselves from other tech companies, feature-wise, aside for iOS. But I say they're wrong, because design-wise, maybe they're starting to look more and more like each other. OS-wise, what's it called? The Samsung version of
One UI.
One UI. There you go. The Samsung version of Android, One UI, is looking more and more like iOS, being polished. It's no longer that janky, old, crusty interface where very doubtful decisions have been made by some committee to design something in a certain way.
Yeah.
It's resembling more and more like each other. Now, and so this guy on YouTube, I'm probably gonna put the link for his YouTube video was very interesting. Down in the doobly-doo, we're gonna put it there, and you can watch it.
Yeah, we'll even put this.
His channel is called
link
Apple.
in the
Yeah.
show notes.
Yeah, I'll put the link. I'll put it in the show notes on the doobly-doo, and people could watch it. His channel is called Apple Explained.
Yes.
And he basically analyzes one product or one service throughout all the history. So he'll analyze FaceTime from the beginning till today, and he'll cover every single event that happened, every change, historically speaking, like a documentary basically, but like shorter, like 10 minutes, 20 minutes. And he did a video on Apple's biggest selling point, which is privacy.
Yes, it is.
And privacy is the biggest selling point. Why? Because I don't want to have to change my ID or because someone stole my ID and did some identity
Exactly. No,
theft.
you don't want to.
I don't want to have to get a new email and fight with Google or whoever's giving me an email because someone stole my password. I don't want to fight with Facebook on recuperating my Facebook account because someone hacked me and I forgot my security questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, like I encourage everyone here that's listening to use a safe password and to memorize your security questions, use two-factor authentication, and to have all the security measures provided by all the companies to secure your accounts. But when it comes to securing your devices, it should be easier, not harder, for the sole purpose of technology getting out of your way. I don't want to have to configure every single security feature and toggle in the settings just because the company is hoping that you'd forget to do it and get information about you to sell it or to make profit out of it. And that's what I like about Apple. Directly, when you open an app, it tells you, do you want this application to access your location? Do you want it to do this, to do that, to do? It asks you. And the thing is, in some interview with the founder of The Verge, I forget his name, Walt Mossberg, and Steve Jobs and Bill Gates, Steve Jobs said privacy is so important. Why? Because more and more we put our information out there.
Yes.
And so it's more and more important for these companies to ask us.
Yeah, exactly.
And when we answer yes or no, let them ask us again. I don't mind if like 3 months in, after using this application, that the application asks me again, do you really want us to use your location?
Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't mind that either.
Because I wouldn't mind. Like, ask me again. I don't care. So some applications do that. Like, they're very actually, I think Apple requires some apps that are in your on your phone after every update to ask you about these questions. I forget which one it was, but some companies use aggressively your information for valid reasons. Like, I know that what's it called? Yeah, mail. Some mailing apps use your contacts.
Yeah.
Some mailing apps also use your location.
Yeah.
But GPS users like Uber and all these companies all these apps that use your location, I think they require a certain period of time to ask you again.
I didn't know that.
For your permission. I forgot if they still have this. That's the thing. But maybe it's after like a really long time. I don't remember
like
exactly.
a year or something.
Yeah, usually like we either format our phones after that time and we have to re-answer all those questions by then, or get a new phone, so we don't really remember. Anyways, and so privacy is a really important topic for this reason. You know, it's a feature of privacy. It's not attractive to people because it's not shiny.
No.
Privacy is not shiny.
No.
It doesn't look good.
No.
Well, you can't really see privacy.
Exactly,
That's
it's
the thing.
like in the background. You don't notice it. If you don't actually look for it, you won't notice it if you're an average consumer.
And by looking at this list, Twitter and Apple are probably the only ones that care.
Yes, they are.
Yeah. So people knock on Siri. Siri is garbage. It's not very advanced. Yeah, it's garbage. But you know, they're not analyzing your data and selling it to firms and always listening to your voice and like Google and Amazon are caught
Why
doing.
do you think
where they basically.
Yeah. Why do you think they get better? Because they take your data and they use it to make themselves better. Which I mean, in a way, it's you're getting a better product. But they're listening to your conversations and they know everything you ask it and all that stuff. Whereas Siri doesn't. And I'd rather have a voice assistant that isn't as smart than have one that is smarter but listens to me all the time.
There you go. And you know, which is funny because an article came out like maybe two or 3 days ago, mentioning that Siri and Google have as many queries on their assistant, the respective assistant. So the both ladies in a can from Google and Apple. So basically, the Google version and the Apple version, people ask as many questions for both of them. They have the same amount of market
Yes.
share of usage, which is very impressive because more people have Google phones. You could get the Google Assistant on iPhone,
Yes.
on other. You could get it on the Google search.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's like a little like icon
Yeah, the little
where
microphone.
you could talk to it,
Yeah.
and it's basic. Yeah, you could talk to it, and they basically own the market for these little speaker pucks. The Google
exactly.
Home and the other
like
versions.
nobody. Well,
And,
there's not many. What's it called? HomePods. 'Cause
Yeah. So, in reality, people use Siri more than the Google versions and the Amazon and the Cortanas and
even
everything.
though they're better.
And was supposedly better. Like I don't know what qualifies better, but I found a use. Everyone has a use for one thing. Everyone has a use for Facebook. Everyone has a use for Instagram. They use it differently. Everyone has use for Twitter, and so everyone conforms the way they use these certain services from these companies in a
Yes.
certain way. And the same thing applies to those assistant services, where I use it mainly to basically do phone
Me too.
calls.
Yeah.
I'm at work. I have my phone on the charger behind me, and I just pull my watch up, say hey dingus, okay, and call that person. And it does a call. I don't have to pull up my phone and start texting and getting stuck in an endless loop of notifications and Facebook scrolling.
Yeah.
So I don't
Yeah.
waste time, and that's pretty much the biggest thing I use it for. Now I do a lot of phone calls because my work requires it. I need to be always contact with vendors and suppliers and companies that we work with. Always everything's done through the phone, and it requires it. Not everyone has that use
No.
case.
No.
Maybe you text a lot, and while you're driving, you don't want to text because it's unsafe, and I don't recommend it.
Very unsafe. Yeah.
But you could use dictation, which is probably safer. Still not safe because you're dividing your attention, but safer than
Yes,
texting.
a lot safer for sure. For
And-
sure.
Or let's say you're walking outside, and you want to pay attention to where you're walking, not like walk into the traffic. So you could use
Yeah.
dictation.
Yeah, you can do that
Dictate
too.
your text
Yeah.
message. Or let's say you're in the car, you started driving, and then you forgot to set up your GPS, and you basically could tell, "Hey dingus, open this location and get
Yeah,
me there."
exactly.
That your phone will do it. Or play a playlist. You don't want to, or skip
Yeah.
track. Raise the volume. You know, not all cars have the toggles on
No.
their steering wheel or whatever. Yeah. So those are interesting uses for it.
They are.
And it seems that Apple has captured more of these than
It
Google.
has, yeah, for sure.
Mm.
So that ends our topic on privacy. Is there anything else that you would like to add to it?
Well, we could continue on the other topics, but we're running short on
are.
time. We would like to thank for everyone who's
Yes.
listening. We're continuously working to improving our podcast and making it better. We'll be announcing stuff on our Facebook and Twitter, and we'll link those in the show notes. And so we'll try to do this consistently. We haven't decided if it's going to be a bi-weekly thing or a weekly thing. We'll determine that, and we'll continuously work towards improving the quality of the audio, streaming, making the streaming easier, making it available on more platforms,
Yes.
and streamlining the process. And so we would like to thank you for your attention and for sticking out through the end. And we'll be expecting you next time we release a podcast. Thank you very much for your support. Bye bye.
Bye.